This goes out to all the women in the world, especially her. You know it don't even matter your age, don't even matter your color. Your fellas, I ain't forget about y'all. This is for everybody that like things. Just listen to what I'm saying and do it and take a chance. I put my hand up on your hip. When I dip, you dip, we dip. You put your hand up on my hip. When you dip, I dip, we dip. I put my hand up on your hip. When I dip, you dip, we dip. You put yours, then I put mine. Then we can dip down low and roll and grind. Just get on the floor like I said before. Y'all remember that down low? Just put a little dip with it. Now roll those hips with it. Pop it, push it, rock it, roll it. Can't control it, I come hold it. It's all in fun, so take a chance. Just get on the floor and do that dance, y'all. I know you like it, so don't try to fight it. Turn around, baby, let me see you from the back. Yeah, I like it like that. Get up now, roll those hips. Drop down, double up on those dips. Freak nasty, wanna see, can y'all do this right? I put my hand up on your hip. When I dip, you dip, we dip. You put your hand up on my hip. When you dip, I dip, we dip. I put my hand up on your hip. When I dip, you dip, we dip. You put yours, then I put mine. Then we can dip down low and roll and grind. Back again with the second verse. It's all clean, so I'm not gonna curse. Drop a bass like a bad habit. Love all women, cause I gotta have it. Coming at y'all in stereo. I'm riding that thing like a rodeo. Hang on, baby, cause the ride is rough, and I got my girls in the front. Now and later, just bumping that rump. Raise it up, let me see that brown. Slapping girl, make it jiggle around. Round and round that rump goes. Where it stop, yo, no one knows, yeah. Freak nasty, wanna see, can y'all do this right? I put my hand up on your hip. When I dip, you dip, we dip. You put your hand up on my hip. When you dip, I dip, we dip. I put my hand up on your hip. When I dip, you dip, we dip. You put yours, then I put mine. Then we can dip down low and roll and grind.
Well, all right, y'all. All right, y'all. If you ain't dipping, you must be tripping. If you ain't doing it down low, gots to go. Gots to go. So the people that moving slow, just dance slow. Yo, DJ, pump it up some more.
It's off to the show in a limo. Before the show, I gotta get that dough. Pay them girls what they work. Slip that money under that skirt. Take it off, baby, let me see. You might get a little more Lucci. G-string, having oh so much fun. Playing inside between them buns. Shorty got it going on like Marvin. Teasing me and she know I'm starving. Lick you up, then lick you down. I ain't finished, girl, turn around. Lick you up and down your back, cause I'm that freak, I'm freaky like that. Freak nasty, wanna see, can y'all do this right? I put my hand up on your hip. When I dip, you dip, we dip. You put your hand up on my hip. When you dip, I dip, we dip. I put my hand up on your hip. When I dip, you dip, we dip. You put yours, then I put mine. Then we can dip down low and roll and grind. I'm setting it off to another level. You digging freak nasty without a shovel. This is my world. I'm just a squirrel trying to get a nut. So what's up, yo DJ? When the party's getting slow, join this jam and watch that flow get taken over like in '94 when I had the whole world getting down low. New Orleans born, ATL living. Freak nasty is what I'm giving. My juice is sweet like Georgia peaches. Women suck it up like leeches. It feels so good, you must admit you like this. Shh. Yeah, y'all know the song. So come on, won't you sing it? I put my hand up on your hip. When I dip, you dip, we dip. You put your hand up on my hip. When you dip, I dip, we dip. I put my hand up on your hip. When I dip, you dip, we dip. You put your hand up on my hip. When you dip, I dip, we dip. I put my hand up on your hip. When I dip, you dip, we dip. You put your hand up on my hip. When you dip, I dip, we dip. I put my hand up on your hip. When I dip, you dip, we dip. You put your hand up on my hip.
We've made too many compromises already. Too many retreats. They invade our space, and we fall back. They assimilate entire worlds, and we fall back. Not again. The line must be drawn here. This far, no farther.
All right, Chad, how we doing tonight? How's everybody doing tonight? It's a wonderful Saturday in the middle of Catboy summer. It was White Boy summer, but unfortunately, we let obvious homosexual Nick Fuentes take it over with his band of special ed twinks. So unfortunately now it's Catboy summer. But hey, at least it's still summer. That's still something, I guess. So there's a few things I want to talk about, and then I'm gonna actually bring John Steele in a little later, And fuck it. Maybe we'll open the floor up to a bunch of other guests. Who knows? Anybody wants to call in. If you still have the Skypes, I know everybody decided to get rid of it for some reason. Everybody on the internet decided to get rid... Like, let me put it this way. Internet people decided to get rid of Skype for some reason. I don't know why exactly. But, like... everybody in my audience decided to get rid of Skype. I still have it because all of the normal people who don't live on the fucking internet still have Skype. So all my actual, like, in real life friends and family, if I need to video call them, I need to use Skype. But everybody else is like, why do you still have Skype? I don't know, guys. I don't know what to tell you, all right? But we got a few things we're going to talk about today. We got a couple of things. First, we're going to talk about this the Steam Deck. I think I had a little too much Captain when I wrote down some notes last night. I wrote down the Switch theme. We need to talk about the new Switch theme. Okay, so the new Switch theme, everybody. So Steam put out a very Switch-like contraption, or is going to put it out. I guess it's not available yet. It's pre-order or something like that. And it looks cool as fuck. It's a little screen. It's a portable device with a little screen. Then the controls on the two sides of it. It's got a trackpad even for like mouse. Because I know you fucking PC gamers want to play everything with a keyboard and a mouse. What do you play with a controller for? I don't know. Because the controller was ergonomically designed to fucking play video games. You're playing on something that is essentially an evolution of a typewriter. And you're looking at me like I'm the weird one. But whatever. It's a cool looking little device. It's kind of piqued my interest. And Lord knows Steam has quite the library of games for it. However, there's one thing that really kind of keeps me from buying it. Keeps me from, in one sense, even wanting it to succeed. And that's not the Nintendo fanboy in me. That's not, oh, I'm Team Switch and I want it to... I don't give a fuck. I don't care. I want the industry to be better, all right, as a consumer. I don't... I have an emotional attachment to most... I shouldn't even say most. To the lion's share of Nintendo's IPs. This is true. But I don't care. I don't care. Like, I honest to God, I think it would probably be better for consumers in the long run if Nintendo went third party and just made games. Like, I don't buy a Nintendo system for the fucking system. I buy it because I like playing Nintendo games. But whatever. That's a whole different book. A whole different discussion. The reason I kind of don't want to get... And part of me wants to get it. It looks like it would be very handy. Again, Steam games are pretty cheap. Problem is, I'm looking at it and saying, holy shit, that is a console hitting the market that will be entirely digital only in its content distribution. This is now a console hitting the market devoid of physical media. That's not good. That's not a good thing. That's not a good thing for the consumers in the long run. That's not a good thing for the industry. Broadly, the powers that be want you to own nothing. Now, understand that. They want you to own nothing. They want you to live in a pod, and you're not even going to own the pod. You're going to pay rent on the pod. Maybe you'll have a car, but it'll be perpetual car payments. Cars are basically already designed to last as long as a car payment, and then it's basically falling the fuck apart. And then you have to fucking get a new one. All right? They don't want you to own a fucking thing. And digital-only distribution isn't just a video game thing. Gamers tend to accept it more. I don't know why. Whatever. I guess they like being on the bleeding edge of tech. I don't know why. They like being in the future. Well, as Razorfist once eloquently put it, not all futures look like Star Trek. Some look like Terminator or Blade Runner. So, if you don't have physical media, you don't own it. Understand that. All right? And I'm not even saying digital doesn't have a place. Some people don't have a lot of space. Certainly, digital has a place when it's much, much cheaper than physical media. Sure. But digital only is not a good fucking future. It's not. Okay? And there's kind of a part of me, I know voting with your wallet almost feels as irrelevant as actually voting, at the ballot box these days. There's kind of a part of me that just, in good conscience, doesn't want to fucking slap down my money and support this shit. Like, I'd rather just not fucking get video games anymore. And I'm not that much of a gamer at this point, to be honest. You know what 2 games I'm looking forward to that are coming out? I want Metroid Dread. And I want the new fucking Hot Wheels game, okay? Because it looks great. I feel fucking stupid even saying it aloud, because Hot Wheels games have traditionally been such utter hot garbage. But I want the new Hot Wheels game. Everything I see about it looks fucking great. It looks like a fun arcade-style racer, and I'm very fond of those. That's it. That's like the only things on the horizon I want to buy. And they're actually both already paid for because I had enough store credit at the game store when I traded in a bunch. When I downsized my amiibos and all the gaming art books and shit I had. But yeah, digital only is not a good fucking place to be. Okay, like I still get a lot of shit. A lot of people that call me, like in the server, in the Discord server, will call me a boomer because I got a bunch of DVDs shit still. That's the way to go. I'm sorry to tell you. I like the streaming services. They're fine for what they are. But, I mean, there's already been numerous cases of these streaming services going back, especially to TV shows, and just dropping whole episodes out of the lineup or editing episodes just discreetly. You don't own it if it's not digital. And it's also, they can very easily kind of change the past a little bit on you when it's all just digital. It's not a good fucking direction to be going. And people want to give me shit. Well, oh, what about disc rot, Bedglov? Those games you got, all those NES, Genesis, and Super Nintendo games, they won't last forever. Nothing's going to fucking last forever, all right? It's going to all be dust one day. The fucking sun is going to supernova one day, all right? And its fucking solar system will be gone. All right? Nothing's going to last. No, nothing's going to last forever. All right? Nothing. You're correct there. But disc rot is not that big of a fucking issue. All right? Like, you can get yourself a fucking Atari 2600. I don't necessarily recommend it, but you could. And it'd probably be very, very difficult to hook up to a modern TV. Maybe get a Retron 77 if that's the way you're going to go. But then go to a retro game store and buy some fucking Atari cartridges. Or buy some fucking Atari cartridges off eBay. Probably dirt fucking cheap because nobody really gives a fuck about Atari anymore. And for good reason. These games are not good. Like, most NES games are still objectively good. I shouldn't say most. A good amount of NES games are still objectively good. That you could go back to. Even if you don't have nostalgia for it. Even if it was well before your time. You could probably have fun playing Mario 1, 2, or 3. Or Mega Man 1 through 6. Or Castlevania 1 through 3. Or just a litany. DuckTales. The Ninja Turtles 2. Ninja Turtles 3 on there. Just a litany of games on there. You could probably have a fucking blast still playing. The Atari, not so much. But the point why I bring up the Atari. Those are game cartridges, some of which date back to the fucking Carter administration. And they still work. So we're a long way away from all these fucking physical games turning to dust on us, okay? That's a ways away. Like, it's... Yeah, they don't want you to own a fucking thing. They want digital only to be the me. And I get it. Some of you are like, oh, I don't have space. I mean, okay, I guess. How fucking... Like, I live in a pretty small place. You know, and I've never really been that fucking... Oh, no, I don't have space. But, all right, whatever. You know, I'm not saying it doesn't work for some people, but it being the norm is not a good fucking place to be going. It's not. And you can sit there and, oh, it's great. I have all my things on this little device. Cool. You don't own it. You don't own it. They don't want you to own it. They don't want you to own a fucking thing. That's where they want you. All right?
Have you heard of Jesus?
And I don't think it's a good thing. Like, it's not. I don't understand why everybody's so obsessed with with getting rid of physical media. Why so many people are so enthusiastic for an absolute fucking shithole of a future. Okay? Because it's just one more piece in the puzzle of you're going to live in the pod and you're going to eat the bugs and you're going to own nothing. It's not a good fucking place to be, man. And that's not even considering the fact that you know how much shit has basically become lost media thanks to digital only distribution? Like, there are video games that are, in some cases, only a few years old. In some cases, yeah, decades. The early, you know, like the mid to late 90s, early digital distribution, like Sega Channel and shit like that. That was fucking so much lost media on that shit. But there, and then, the fucking BS, literally that's what they called it, the broadcast system. The BS games that fucking Nintendo put on the Super Nintendo, that shit's all fucking gone. A lot of it. Some of it thankfully got preserved, but a lot of it's just fucking gone. And even the shit that got preserved, parts of it are gone. Like, BS Legend of Zelda had a fucking, like, they hired a narrator to fucking narrate that game. That part of it's gone. Somebody thankfully managed to save the ROM of it, but that part of it's gone. There's another famous example I can think of for like the Sega Channel. There was some Garfield game where they didn't have time to put the levels on the game, so they gave the extra levels as part of the Sega channels. Those levels are literal lost media. There's speculation as to what they looked like because there's an 8-bit Game Gear version of that game that has versions of that level, so you can kind of get an idea. But the point is, it's lost media. There's games, though, that are only a couple of years old that have literally become lost media. And I don't mean in the sense that you can't legitimately buy it right now. I mean in the sense that, as far as we know, no one has a copy. They have been lost to time. In only a few years. The Competent Man sends $5. Thank you very much. It's still really tight right now. I could especially use super chats. Decline of Skype. Skype started as an independent program and popular for substitute for.
Have you heard of Jesus?
Yeah, got to scroll back down. And popular for substitute for long distance or international calls, and became popular. The eBay. I'm sorry. I guess he means then. Then eBay bought Skype and got resold to Microsoft. Microsoft bundled with Office and was very popular. Okay. Competent Man sends another $5. Says, then Microsoft has been encouraging everyone to use Microsoft Teams. One of my customers had Skype on all machines. Within the last few weeks, they force uninstall Skype in favor of Teams. Teams is not as good as Skype. Uses a lot of memory and is slow. I have no problem with Skype, so yeah. I just use Skype. That's where everybody I know in real life, if I need to fucking video call, uses fucking Skype, okay? So go to Discord. Yeah, I'm gonna fucking teach my 96-year-old aunt to use fucking Discord. I'm amazed she learned how to do Skype. Okay? She's not gonna go on Discord. A service meant for gamers and furries, alright? She's not gonna do it, alright? But yeah, and look, it's not just a video game thing. Like, they want you to be devoid of physical media on everything. Books, movies, all of it. You know? And again, it's cheaper to make. Companies want to push it for that reason. And also, again, you don't own it. He says, don't they all use Zoom now? I don't know. I keep hearing Zoom getting pushed, but I don't know a fucking single person that uses Zoom. John Steele donates $1 and says, Ben Shapiro is a great patriot for Israel. This is very true. Yes, he is very patriotic for Israel. All right, so moving on. A couple other things I did want to talk about. Oh, I watched a movie on Netflix here today called Gunpowder Milkshake, which was pretty fucking fun. I gotta say. Pretty fucking fun. You know, just an over-the-top action movie. It's sort of like a Tarantino movie that's not fucking obsessed with the 70s. It's that over-the-top fucking bloody action. But yeah, man, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a fun action flick. The chick in it was pretty fucking hot, too. So Gunpowder Milkshake's pretty fun, if you have Netflix. I'm not even giving like a full review. Like, whatever, dude. It's fun. There you go. It's fun. You want to watch a fun movie? Go watch. It fucking owns because it's fun. All right, it's over the top and fucking fun. It's not trying to be anything other than that. It's just fun. So the other big story, apparently the Pope banned Latin Mass. Argent had a big emergency stream on it with a few of his trad buddies. Once again, the Pope shit in their mouth. So they have to fucking sit there and OD on some copium to figure out how they can mentally deal with this. You know how I mentally deal with it? I don't care what the Pope says. That's how I mentally deal with it. Well, I love what Full Metal said in the Discord. Catholics go on about their great traditions. But they don't realize we Protestants have the great tradition of not caring what the gay fucking Pope says. It's a 500-year-old tradition. I'm happy to uphold it. Anyways, the Pope said you're not allowed to do Latin Mass anymore. I guess, again, everything the Pope says is ridiculously fucking convoluted. But basically, it seems like the Pope said no more Latin Mass. Now, I kind of said, like, what exactly the fuck is Latin Mass? I'm still not 100% sure. As best as I understand it, you maybe there are Catholics in the fucking chat and you can explain this to me. Maybe send a super chat and explain it to me. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. But why do you want the Mass to be held in a language you do not speak? Like, I don't understand that. Most of you don't, like, I get a lot of you trads like to pretend you fucking speak Latin, like the King of Canada likes to do. But let's be real, most of you don't know fuck all in Latin. So why do you want your Mass to be performed in a language that you do not speak? It's not even like this is a language of the Bible, okay? This isn't like it's Greek or Hebrew or something. But Bedglov, it's tradition. But don't you want your Mass to be performed in, like, when I go to a church service, if I went to a church service and the preacher is up there reading the Bible to me, you know, teaching the Bible to me in a language that, again, I do not speak, I'm not going to get anything out of that. Even if it's fucking Greek or Hebrew or something, like, well, Jesus spoke this. Cool, but I do not. So I get nothing out of this. Ninja Master says, Latin is the official language of the church. It unifies the world in a universal tongue. Cool. We're going to table that. We're going to put a pin in that, Ninja. Because
Have you heard of Jesus?
I want to get back to the, to why you're so fucking obsessed. I mean, I'm guessing you're Catholic. Why y'all are so fucking obsessed with unity, too. So we're going to put a pin in that comment. Okay. We'll get back to that here in a second. John Steele donates $5. Thank you very much for that. And says, everyone who donates $1 will get 5 minutes of my time and advice. Better than Aaron Cleary. He spelled it Cleary, so I'm going to call it Cleary. Aaron Cleary. I don't know who that is. I don't know anyone named that. So I can't comment on that. Anyways. To me, your obsession with Latin Mass, and this is just me, what do I know? I'm just a fat, dumb retard on the internet. But to me, it is very indicative of your absolute obsession with style over substance. What are the biggest complaints I hear about us low church Protestants from you trad Catholics? You know, at your Nick Fuentes pool parties. What do I fucking hear? Well, you have the music playing, there's a guitar, and your pastor's wearing jeans. Fucking so? Who the hell cares? None of those things have anything to do with actual theology or morality or anything of the sort. It's just, you want the illusions of a church, the theatrics of a church. That's what you're fucking obsessed with. That's why you want that's why you want Mass in a language that, again, you do not fucking speak. Because it's not about the substance. It's about the feeling. It's about the aesthetics. It's about the style. So you know what? You gay faggot Pope, who is indeed a gay faggot Marxist, probably is inadvertently doing you all a fucking favor by saying, hey, maybe you do the Mass in the fucking language of the people who are attending the Mass. I know it's a crazy fucking concept, but there you go. It's not style. The new Mass is a circus. Anything goes. It's respect for the Lord. It is style, and you're kind of proving my point. Okay? You want to know what I would do if I was going to give a sermon? In the unlikely fucking scenario, you want to know what I would do if I was to give a sermon? Let's say I was at the church I attended, like, hey, Bedglov, we want you to give a sermon. You know, the pastor comes up to me and goes, Bedglov, I want you to give the next sermon. And I'm like, really? Why? And he goes, I kind of want to get fired. I'm like, all right, well, this will probably do that. So I go up and give my sermon. You want to know how I'm going to fucking dress for my sermon? I'm going to wear a fucking Nightmare on Elm Street t-shirt and jeans. And you want to know why I'm going to wear that Nightmare on Elm Street t-shirt? Number one, I like that t-shirt a lot, and that movie kicks fucking ass. Number two, I'm going to draw attention to it in the sermon and make the point that, boy, it sure doesn't look like I belong up here with a Nightmare on Elm Street t-shirt, doesn't it? Well, that's because I don't belong here. None of us belong here. We're all only here because of God's grace. And the moment you've lost sight of that, you've lost the whole fucking plot. That's what I would wear if I was given a fucking sermon. Which, again, a pretty unlikely scenario. So when you're obsessed with lighting the right candles and making the architecture of the building look great and giving the fucking Mass in a language no one fucking speaks, so it might as well be gibberish. It might as well be like the language Banjo-Kazooie speak. When the little text box goes, the little text box at the bottom and all when they're talking, and it's just the gibberish nonsense language. It might as well be fucking Klingon. Because you do not speak it. You do not fucking understand it. It's just noises. noises that comfort you because you associate it with a certain aesthetic. So, inadvertently, and it is inadvertently because he is a shitty man who is just fucking shit up. But inadvertently, he kind of did you a favor. That said, though, it does illustrate the point that you have leadership who is doing... The entire modern Pope situation does absolutely illustrate the point that y'all's problem is a worship of tradition and of authority, not of God. And that's why you have to do these mental gymnastics to deal with the fact that your Pope is a fucking Marxist communist and holds none of the values that you as a trad do. I don't have to do that. When I go to a church and the leadership is shitty, I may try to reform the church, although that's usually a fool's errand, or I just go somewhere else. I don't have to act like James MacDonald is the voice of God. I don't ever have to play mental gymnastics to get around to do that shit. I don't ever have to do it. And it's pretty fucking nice. So that would be my suggestion to y'all. Come over here where you get right with Jesus and you stop worshiping tradition and authority. And I guess Mary. Y'all are big on fucking Mary. It's at least 3-1 in mentions to Mary over Jesus with y'all. Alrighty, so what else did I want to talk about? Looks like that's about it from my my buzzed notes here. But good news though, the Pope has said that even though he's getting rid of the Latin Mass, he's going to replace it with the Latinx Mass. It's very progressive, but I think you all like it. Don't worry. You still won't know what the fuck they're saying up there. So, alrighty. It looks like that's about it for my notes. A few things I wanted to ramble on about. So I said Catholics exist. Bedglov re. Oh yeah, it's definitely a re with me. No, you see, I actually don't give much of a fuck about you guys. I know that sounds funny because I love to shit on you on this show, which actually, in the last probably couple of months, I really haven't been. If you actually go back and listen to the last several fucking live streams, I've been going hard on evangelicals, on churchianity, on what Julie Roars likes to call the evangelical industrial complex. That's been my fucking
Have you heard
my
of
quest
Jesus?
in the last several fucking months, really. I generally don't think about you Catholics because I kind of consider you largely irrelevant. I realize the only reason it's so prominent now is because
Have you heard of Jesus?
and I'm a little out of them now, but I've kind of been kind of tied up in esoteric, spurgy far-right circles in the last few years, which I kind of regret, if I'm being honest with you. Met some good people there from that, but by and large, not the best use of my limited time on this earth. But before getting entangled in that, I considered Catholicism largely fucking irrelevant. Okay? It was a faith. Everything atheists say about Christianity being a scam to control people, man, is actually true if you only consider Catholicism. It's a backwards bullshit theatrical version of Christianity, held on to mostly by third worlders, was my opinion of Catholicism before getting involved in alt-right, dissident right, esoteric far right circles. And I'm kind of circling back around to that. Because it really doesn't matter in American politics. It might in the next several decades when America ceases to be America and becomes a third world hellhole thanks to unlimited immigration. But for now, that America is still America, it doesn't really matter. And nothing that ever made America great has anything to do with Catholicism. Okay? The renegade freedom that this country was founded on has nothing to do with Catholicism. All right? If anything, the Know-Nothing Party did nothing wrong. So I actually don't generally give much of a fuck about Catholics. And again, you could listen to the last several months of this stream to see that I spent most of this time going hard on, again, I'll call it the evangelical industrial complex. Ninja Master says, the Pope basically undone the work Benedict did for the Latin Mass. It's a really big deal, is it now? Trads just want to worship and raise families in peace. And the Pope is picking a fight with the most faithful. Cool. I'm kind of glad. Okay? You authority-worshipping idiots now get authority that hates you. And I'm kind of glad. It's sort of what you deserve. Now, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of authority-worshipping idiots in this side of the Reformation, as, again, I've been shitting on for the past several months, and you want to know the God's honest truth? They fucking deserve the shit they get. You want to know why so many of these mega churches are run by James McDonald types? Your Mark Driscolls and whatnot? Because that's what the people under them want. They want daddy to tell them what to do. They want... I really don't get you Catholics. Like, you just go be Orthodox if you need the gay fucking security blanket of tradition. Just go be Orthodox, okay? It's actually more esoteric and hipsterish, so you get more points with your fucking... You can actually get a little bit more fucking points looking down on other people for not being trad enough as you sit online and talk about the families you're going to raise when you're afraid to talk to a girl. Do that instead. Duke of Tumwater, I'm sorry, not Duke of Tumwater, Complete Man. Duke of Tumwater donates $1, but Complete Man donated right before that $5 and said, how about everyone learn Latin and bring back the Pax Romana, the Roman peace, Civis Romus Sum, when traveling across the... how about no? How about we not bring back the Roman Empire? Okay? I know, like, maybe Nick Fuentes would love that, because then he could have his concubine... he could have a fucking harem of catboys. Because that shit was cool back then. But no, how about we not do that? How about that? Like, again, you know what? I'm going to circle back to it. Oh, the unity. Why the fuck are y'all niggas so obsessed with unity? Can we get back up? You want unity? Go get assimilated by the fucking Borg. How about that? How about there's your fucking unity? I don't want unity. There's a whole bunch of people, even people who call themselves Christian, I want nothing to fucking do with. Let alone do I want to be unified with. Fuck them. What is this unity shit? Why is it so fucking important to you? I don't want to be unified in error. Why do you? I don't understand that. Like, y'all like to bitch like, haha, you Protestants have 1 billion denominations, which is obviously a fucking exaggeration. But you want to know how many denominations I think there should be? I don't know. How many actual fucking churches exist on this world? I'm talking about actual congregations with a pastor. How many of those are in this world? That fucking many. How about that? How about every fucking church is independent and we just fucking, you just use the fucking scripture as your anchor? How about that? I'd rather that. Then let's all be unified under the gay pope. You need to get in line and be unified under his no more reading in Latin. Fucking, how about that? After all, we don't want every man being his own pope, right? Duke of Tumwater donates $1 and says, what's your opinion of the concept of logos that E. Michael Jones talks about? Well, leave it to a spurgy trad Catholic
Have you heard of Jesus?
To figure out a way to talk about Jesus without talking about Jesus. That is the most Catholic thing I've ever fucking heard when you get right down to it. That's kind of Catholicism in a nutshell. It's about Jesus, but it's actually not about Jesus. That's the fucking logos, okay? I'm going to take this one title Christ gave himself one time, or I should say the scripture gave Christ one time, and I'm going to stretch it out to an abstract fucking concept and only talk about that, not actually Jesus. How fucking Catholic is that? That's the most Catholic thing ever, to be honest. E. Michael Jones should be your Pope, okay? Because he's uber Catholic. He's like a version of Catholicism that got all 7 Chaos Emeralds and at least 50 fucking rings. That's how hypercharged E. Michael Jones's Catholicism is. He figured out a way to talk about Jesus without actually talking about Jesus. I'm actually kind of impressed when I step back and look at that. Credit where credit's due. Luke was the first one to point that out to me. Artistic Layman. He sent that to me, I think, on like Facebook Messenger or Skype or something. He's like, I just realized E. Michael Jones rambling on about the Legos all the time is... I know, the Legos. I'm more of a Mega Bloks guy myself. I'm just kidding. Mega Bloks suck. But him going on about the logos all the fucking time, that's him talking about Jesus without actually talking about Jesus. Ironic Coolness says, why blindly trust the scriptures but not the church the scriptures came from? Essentially,
Have you heard of Jesus?
Here's the thing, Ironic. I am not naturally a man of faith. I'm not. I am a skeptic by nature. I hate to say that word because these days that's almost come to mean that I want a banana up my ass. That's not what I mean by it. I'm just a skeptical man by nature. Now, I am able to muster up enough faith to look at the scriptures and say, okay, cool, God's word. All right, I get on board with that. I do not have enough faith to look at an institution whose leadership is, according to conservative Catholic sources, at least 50% homosexual, who routinely cover up for pedophilia, among many other crimes, and whose leadership, whose ultimate leader is basically a Marxist. I don't have enough faith to look at that vile and corrupt of an institution and say, yeah, this is something God demands I give unwavering loyalty and devotion to. I don't have that kind of faith. Like, I'm just not fucking stupid, okay? How about that? I'm just not fucking stupid. I can make a leap of faith, but that's not a leap of faith, okay? That's jumping from here to the Andromeda Galaxy in fucking faith. I can't pull that off. Sorry to tell you. And as for the 7 books Luther removed, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't fucking know. I don't know how I feel about that. I haven't looked into it enough. I haven't really read those. I will admit my ignorance on that. I do not know. I do not have a concrete answer on that for you. I will admit my ignorance. You got me there. I don't know. Maybe I need to look at those 7 books. I don't know. Is there anything in those 7 books about how you should worship Mary, or church sermons should be performed in a language no one speaks? Is that in there? I mean, maybe you can point to that in there, and we'll take a look. John Steele donates $3 and says Aaron Clary is probably not a pedophile. I would say he is most likely not a pedophile. I'm pretty fucking certain of that. I do not believe there's any reason to suspect. So, I disavow the spirit of that comment. But thank you very much for the super chat, nonetheless. So he says Bedglov saying Catholics make Styx look more Christian in comparison. Styx is probably closer to finding God than a lot of y'all fucking trads. Sorry to tell you. You know, it's a good example. And I know he's Orthodox, not Catholic, but realistically, same fucking thing. I'm sorry, y'all Orthodox and Catholics. Like, the Orthodox dress weirder. Like, their leadership dress is fucking weirder. It looks like they're fucking reenacting Lord of the Rings or some shit. Aside from that, though, I mean, y'all are kind of the Star Trek aliens with the black on the right half instead of the left half, as far as I'm concerned. You're a bunch of legalistic, theatrical idiots that fucking deny the actual message of grace found in the gospel. So, you know, it's Coke and Pepsi as far as I'm concerned. I prefer Pepsi. I think Pepsi tastes a lot better. But neither one's good for you. You know what I mean? It's roughly the same amount of calories in both. Competent Man donates $1. Thank you very much. Protestants, one indicator where one views it, how they refer to the events of the 1500s, is either the Protestant revolt or the Protestant Reformation. 500 years and not. And by the way, I remember Davis used to attack me all the time, like, "Oh, you know, Luther said this one thing that's dumb," and I'm like, "Cool. I don't fucking worship Luther. I don't know why." Like, they really don't understand that. Like, he's not our pope or something. You understand? We don't have a pope. So he says, but Protestants aren't legalistic. Look at Calvinism. Oh, Protestants are often legalistic as fuck. And I disavow that. The difference is, it's a bug, not a feature. Okay? That's the difference. So he says, if you're going to hell, it's because you prefer Pepsi over Coke. Don't come at me with your basic bitch Coke drinking taste, okay? Pepsi is fucking delicious, all right? And Coke tastes like goddamn battery acid with some sugar in it, all right? Coke. Cherry Coke is tolerable, especially if you go to like a restaurant where you put the grenadine syrup in it. That's fucking delicious, actually. Although Pepsi is better that way. But no, don't come at me with this Coke shit. Come on. You know, I'm on it because I haven't gone hard on the fucking Catholics in a while. I'm honestly surprised I still have that many of you in here. Like, holy shit. Like, everything I talk about here every night is fucking completely antithetical to Catholicism. What do I talk about? I talk about freedom. I talk about liberty. I talk about not worshiping authority. That's the most un-Catholic thing in the fucking world. I'm amazed any of you fucking listen to me. Root beer is king soda. It depends on the root beer. Like, there's a lot of shit root beers out there. You know, I mean, if you're going with some, like, IBC root beer in a glass bottle, yeah, that's some king shit right there. But, like, A&W is all right. Barks is all right. Like, root beer's usually good, but, like, you get a lot of, like, there's a lot of shit root beers out there, man. I tell you what, though, birch beer, that's a big thing in this area for some reason. Birch beer is fucking disgusting. If you like birch beer, you're fucking wrong. I just want you to know that about yourself. You're wrong. Okay, you're just wrong. On every level, you're wrong. You probably should not exist. You're a fucking... Mango Pepsi's all right. Yeah, I like Mango Pepsi. I wish they'd do a strawberry Pepsi. That'd be fucking great. Or a peach Pepsi. That'd be fucking great. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and give John Steele a call. See what he's up to. So I said I did follow through on some of your advice this week. Went to a comic book video game store, tried a new food truck. Fuck yeah, man. That's what it's all about. You gotta live your life. Just went through a birch beer phase. Ew. What the fuck is wrong with you? It's gross. It's fucking gross. Alright, we're gonna give John Steele a call.
Hello, yes.
Hey, how's it going, John?
I'm good. I'm good. What's going on?
Oh, not much. I was just gonna do the rest of the show in a language no one speaks. I figured everyone would get a lot out of that.
Come
I
on.
figured that's. I'm gonna start doing my podcast in Klingon. Figure
Hey, Klingon.
that is an actual language. The writers back in the day actually made a full language for that. Because back then they were such nerds that cared about like continuity and shit. They wanted all the words to be right because they were using Klingon so much.
Yeah, I don't know if any of your listeners ever used to watch the television show Frasier. Do you remember that TV
I
show?
do remember Frasier, and I think I know the exact joke you're talking about.
Yeah. So anyway, he was asked at his son because his wife was Jewish. You know, they were divorced, and um, he was supposed to speak at his son's bar mitzvah and give a speech in Hebrew, but it was like through comedic circumstances, he actually reads the speech in Klingon, and he thinks he's speaking in Hebrew. Anyway, look it up.
That's actually not the joke I was thinking of. I was thinking of one where, because like Frasier, for you young kids, Frasier, the premise in Frasier was he hosted a call-in psychiatry show on a radio channel, and there were other, like, I guess it was an AM station because there were other shows on there that were like talk. One was like a sports guy, one was some tech nerd guy or something. So Frasier had gone.
Bulldog was a sports guy. Yeah.
Bulldog was the sports guy. That's right. And so they had all gone out drinking one time, and Frasier is describing we don't even see it. Frasier is describing the evening about all these guys just getting fucking shit faced, right? And they're like, Neil, I guess, was the nerd guy or something, and Frasier's like, everyone got so trashed that Bulldog went up there in karaoke and did a very disturbing rendition of the song "I Feel Pretty." Which Neil then translated into Klingon.
Oh yeah, I remember. Actually, now I remember Neil. He was this really. He actually wasn't gay. He was obsessed with Roz. Do you remember? He had this huge crush on Roz.
Wasn't that his brother? I thought his brother was the one that was obsessed with Roz.
No. His brother had the crush on Daphne.
Oh, Roz was the producer. That's right. Yes, it's been so long since I've seen it.
Roz worked at the radio station with whoever the other guy was you're talking about. Yeah.
Oh, the actress that played Roz, she was Hercules' wife in the Kevin Sorbo Hercules show. In the in the early episodes, he has a wife and then she dies.
Really?
Yeah, she's in like the first few episodes of the Kevin Sorbo Hercules show.
Oh, okay. Because I used to watch that. Like, I didn't watch it regularly, but I don't remember him ever being Hercules having a wife.
It was like the first few episodes. It was sort of like in mythology, Hercules kills his wife. Because in mythology, Hercules was actually a shithead. Like we've turned him.
That's not really true. If you want.
We've turned him into much more of a black and white hero in most modern adaptations. Let's put it that way. So they kind of recreated that.
Jesus. But anyway.
They've kind of recreated that in the show, but not him killing her. She gets killed by someone else or something. But they sort of tried to hero that story up a bit more.
Well, it's kind of funny. Like, I don't know how much you know about the myth of Hercules. Was basically Hercules was the product of Zeus's infidelity.
Yeah, that's still in the show. That's still in most modern adaptations, I think.
Yeah, so basically, like, the reason, like, Hercules is always being fucked with is because...
Yeah, Hera hates him.
Hera hates him, right? Because he's like, the embodiment of the fact that her husband fucked around on her. But, like, she can't kill him, because, like, if she does, like, well, I guess her husband would kill her, right? You know? So she can't kill him, but she can fuck with him, like, really, really bad, you know? And because he's half god, like, I guess he's a demigod, like, who is the other one? Like Achilles. So he ends up can take all this abuse, but it's like his life is not fun. Let's just put it that way.
I'm gonna go back and rewatch that Hercules show at one point because I just remember how fucking bonkers it was in like the best way.
Well, what was which was the spinoff of which was?
Xena was the spinoff of Hercules.
Oh, okay. I was never sure who spinned
Yeah, Xena appeared in a few like a story arc of Hercules and just proved so popular. Like the next year, they gave
Were
her
they
her own
lovers?
show. Oh yeah, he was banging the fuck out of her for a little bit in that one.
Oh, okay. I was never sure which, but Xena went on for a lot longer, didn't it?
It started a little later, yes, but I don't think it went on that much longer, but I think it did have a longer run, and more people seem to remember it than the Hercules show, which is a shame because I think the Hercules show is way better. I mean, Xena was all right, but the Hercules show kicked ass.
Well, they were both really campy.
They were, but I mean, they were also like 90s syndicated shows, you know, that in many markets would air at like 4 in the afternoon on Saturday. You know what I mean? Like so.
I remember Kevin Sorbo like talking about, they filmed it in New Zealand.
I think so. Yeah, it looks like they did.
He was an American, and I remember him talking about like he got invited to like a cricket match, and like I've actually never watched cricket or been. I mean, I kind of know what it is, but and he was talking about how like it went on like for 4.5 hours, and he actually got up and left because he was so bored out of his fucking mind, and it like offended everybody because he just thought this was like the most boring, stupidest shit like he'd ever seen in his life. But actually, he's actually a pretty nice guy. Like I've seen him in interviews. I know you kind of shit on him because he's on like that. What's that Christian?
Oh no, I shit on his current career, but I actually like Kevin Sorbo personally. I'm glad he's still getting work. It's just the stuff he makes now is garbage. But I'm happy that he's working. I mean, good for him. You know what I mean? Like, trust me. Like, if he was at like a con within driving distance of me, I'd want to go. I'd want to like. I don't know. I don't even own any Hercules stuff. I wasn't that big of like I would buy a Hercules figure still in box just to have him sign it and like hang it up because he's cool. You know what I mean?
Actually might be worth some bucks if you would like the Hercules still in the box and Kevin Sorbo signed it. That probably be worth some dollars.
But just let me tell you people in the audience why you should watch Hercules: The Legendary Journeys. All right, let me sell you on this show because I know a lot of you're young. You know, like what the fuck are you talking about? So this is a syndicated Hercules show. Kevin Sorbo plays Hercules. He has like a family at first, but then they get killed. And then he has a buddy that he hangs out with. I can't remember the buddy's name, but it was his sidekick. It's his fucking Robin, his Tails. You know, it's his fucking... this is his running buddy. And this is just like... He's almost like a bard in the sense that he's like a comic relief. He doesn't play instruments or anything, but he's basically just... He's just this goofy fucking guy that follows him around, and they just have misadventures just across the land. And
that was the whole show, was it?
That's some of this whole show, but
the whole show was him like getting into these fucked up circles.
So he meets Xena, the warrior princess, at one point, and through the power of his serious deep dicking, he turns this villain chick, he reforms her, and makes her want to be good. So Xena runs off and has her own show. And she gets her own little blonde chick to follow her around. So they end up having their own show.
There was heavy...
There was a lot of... There wasn't any real gay stuff between Hercules and his buddy, but there was a lot of hinting to lesbian stuff with Xena and the fucking little blonde girl. Anyways, and there was also a blonde girl that was like an evil Xena, which I don't know. I didn't watch as much Xena. Point is, Xena, well, you get a spin-off show. That's how good this is, all right? Which, again, Hercules took a bad girl and made her want to be good through the power of his dick, so... Congratulations there. And then some other bonkers shit in the show. We got Bruce Campbell playing, I can't remember the character's name, but he's the king of thieves, right? He's this master thief guy. And he shows up both in Hercules and Xena all the fucking time. And then you got Sam Raimi's brother plays this guy Joxel or something like that, who is the worst warrior in the world, but he wants to be a great warrior. And he often accidentally bumbles his way into victory. It's fucking amazing. He shows up more. He just has this weird fucking dumb luck about him. He's like, remember in Star Wars Episode 1 how Jar Jar like accidentally wins a fucking battle through his sheer stupidity? That's basically Joxel the whole fucking time these shows are running. And he pops up at both of them all the time. And then you got like episodes like where they go to a parallel universe and Aphrodite is the goddess of war, and not Mars. What's the Greek name for Mars? Not Ares. What's the god of war in Greek? I know it's Mars in Rome, but Well, whatever.
I only
They
know-
because they went by Greek names, but I'm blanking on it. Mars, the guy, the god of war. So the god of war in this evil fucking Star Trek mirror universe, he's the god of love, and Aphrodite is the goddess of war, and she's like in a dominatrix outfit, which
It's
is
like Deep Space
fucking
Nine.
amazing. And then there's an episode where he goes to like Viking lands and fights Thor, because there's just also Thor and the Norse gods in this world, because fuck you. And then there's an episode where he fights fucking Dracula or something. I don't even remember how that one went, but you can imagine it's fucking bonkers. And
What? I don't know.
and then there's an episode where we're just so this episode is this is the most bonkers one, but it's great. So this episode starts with just Hercules doing Hercules stuff, and it just looks like a typical episode. And then you hear someone say cut, and like they just pan out, and it's a set, right? And they're being filmed, and then you think it's like some behind the scenes thing, right? Because then it's like Kevin Sorbo's just hanging out doing Kevin Sorbo stuff now, right? And you think it's like a behind the scenes episode. You're like, okay, that's weird. That's a weird thing to do, but all right, whatever. So Kevin Sorbo's is driving around Hollywood in his fucking sports car, which is bullshit because they don't even film it in Hollywood, but whatever. He's driving around Hollywood in his sports car in a very terrible fucking green screen behind him of palm trees going by and shit, like, but whatever. So in his car,
Filmed it in like Christchurch, New Zealand.
the God of War appears right next to him. The God of War from the TV show appears next to Kevin Sorbo. And you're like, well, what the fuck's going on now? I thought this was behind the scenes shit. And the God of War is talking to him. And he's like, when are they going to find out that Kevin Sorbo is the real myth? So this episode takes place in the future for him, which is our time, in which Hercules, being immortal, has lived on all this time and has now taken on the name Kevin Sorbo and is making a TV show about Hercules. That is amazing. That is bonkers meta shit. Its show is so great. That show's fucking awesome. Like you watch, like, yeah, the effects in it are ass because it's like, it wasn't particularly high budget, and the show started in like,
Campy. I mean, like,
it started in like 95, and it was like syndicated. Like I said, in my market, this shit played at like 4 PM on a Saturday. That's when the new episode premiered. So not like the biggest fucking show in the world. But God, was it good. Dude, so much bonker shit in it. And ironically, you might think, well, Bedglov, what if I just want some good old-fashioned eye candy to crank my rod to? Shouldn't I go to the Xena show? And you would think that. But ironically enough, the Hercules show, even for a straight man, has way more eye candy, because there are hot bitches galore in that fucking show. Holy fuck. Everybody's got a bit of a butch lesbian vibe on the Xena show. Even the hot girls. But in the Hercules show, eye candy galore in that show. Holy fuck.
Yeah,
the kind of shit you're amazed they got away with on network television.
yeah, like in the Hercules one, there is. It's the only difference is that they're different, like each episode.
Yeah, Hercules always is banging some chick. He's always like, and it's weird. He's not even like a macho, like machismo kind of like. He's such like a soft, like friendly puppy dog fucking type of a guy in this show. Like he's so friendly and nice and kind to a fault in this show. He just ends up in these fucking situations. Like he's not like the
Kind of like the real Kevin Sorbo.
yeah, it's not like the Marvel Comics Hercules or something where he's an abrasive drunk half the time, which is a great version of Hercules, don't get me wrong. But no, this is just this like sweet puppy dog of a fucking character that just stumbles his way into every woman's fucking pants in ancient Greece.
Yeah, well, all the girls are like clawing all over each other to fucking, get in his fucking G-string.
But no, dude, that show is fucking amazing. Like, go watch Hercules. It's one of the most perfectly, beautifully bonkers shows in the world. Like, it just knows exactly what it is and doesn't give a fuck.
Well, it was funny that you said that about Xena having that lesbian vibe was because the actress that played Xena, I remember seeing her in an interview where she went to one of those Comic-Con type things,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess the way they ever filmed her, they made her look like she was like a 6 foot tall Amazon. That was her.
Yeah, she's not really that tall.
Yeah, and I remember her saying like that, like there was, there was all these. I mean, she didn't say it this way, but butch lesbians that went to see her. And in real life, she's very feminine.
She actually looks arguably a lot better. She's one of those women that have aged like really, really well, and it ended up being quite the MILF, and arguably kind of a lot hotter than she was when she was young.
I haven't seen her in years. I don't know, but I just saw her, like, she was talking about how when she went to the thing to, how they. I never went to one of these concerts. You went to one or two when you were
I've been to a few, yeah.
And like they were like, she said like they were angry that she wasn't taller. And she's like, sorry, she's not like her character. Like they fell in love with this, but in real life she's like extremely feminine. She likes the D, not the B. That, but the show had this huge, like you said, Hercules was better for the eye candy because in the Xena thing, they toned down the femininity of the women, for lack of a better phrase.
Hercules, even though again the point of Hercules is Hercules and his buddy, his smaller, weaker, buddy who follows him around, like Robin to Batman, and yet I've never heard anyone like accuse that show of being subtly, even in this day and age where like everybody on Tumblr and shit like that says that every fucking two friends in a fucking show or something are actually gay and fucking each other. I've never heard anybody accuse that of like Hercules and his friend from that show. But I mean, even back in the day, everybody was like, is Xena fucking this little blonde girl? Like,
oh, they did that on purpose.
Like, there's actually an episode of Xena, and I will never forget this because, again, I was a fucking, adolescent to teenage boy when I saw this. But, like, they're just taking a bath together. They're fucking washing each other's backs and shit like that. And you could say, okay, well, they're just, it's you could very much dismiss that as platonic, but at the same time, you also didn't have to put it in the show. You know what I mean? Like, it's clear they were hitting around to something there. I think the little blonde girl actually was a bard. Like, I think she actually played an instrument. I can't remember if that was in a show. I remember they recently did like over at Dynamite, they did a Xena comic that was meant to be like, because we don't really see a lot in the show. Like, we see her kind of after her initial, like, bout with Hercules, you see her kind of wanting to reform. And next thing you know, like, next year there's a Xena show where now she's a good guy. And there's kind of a gap there. So this comic book series was trying, and it was like made by writers of the show and all. It was kind of trying to like how she met this little blonde girl and how she kind of, went full on into the hero path and stuff like that. It was actually a pretty good read. It was a couple of years ago, but it was a solid read. But yeah, in the comic at least, I remember specifically that the little blonde girl was a bard. Like she had like a little fucking pan flute or some shit like that. I can't remember. Like some little instrument or something, but that she literally just traveled around making money as a bard.
Blonde chick, to me, I mean, like I said, I haven't seen this show. Like you said, it was a 90s show, so I haven't seen it in years. But I don't think the blonde chick was super hot.
You know who, and this is because I have issues, obviously, but there was the evil Xena. I can't remember her, but I can't remember her name, but she was basically evil Xena. She was the bizarro Superman to Xena. You know what I mean? She's the fucking reverse Flash to her Flash. She's meant to be evil version of Xena. She's her own person, obviously, but she's meant to fill that archetype. Right. There's blonde nemesis to Xena. That was like, I guess when Xena was an evil shithead, she was in like a running crew of other Amazon bitches to, travel around and fuck shit up. And this was like somebody else in that crew who hates Xena because she betrayed the crew and stuff like that. So she just always follows Xena around and tries to fuck her shit up. And I don't know how the actress managed it. Maybe it's great acting. Maybe the actress herself was crazy. But she always had fucking crazy girl face on her. You know what I mean? And I'm kind of a little bit of a fan of that because I don't know if you ever stuck your dick in crazy. Wouldn't recommend it if you did. But crazy fits your dick like a glove. Yeah, holy shit, man.
I will say, like, speaking as the older guy here, at the time, you think it's worth it? Because, like...
Oh, no, you pay a mighty price. But you know what? You get what you pay for.
Yeah, I'm just telling you guys, man, you might think it's... The older you get, the more you realize that no.
Oh man, that was a great show. Hercules was a great fucking show.
Oh, by the way, so the chick's name that played Xena is Lucy Lawless,
Mm-hmm.
and guess how old she is?
She's got to be in her 50s at
Yeah,
least.
she's 53.
She, if you've ever seen Parks and Recreation, she actually ended up being Ron Swanson's. Like, she's the guy that or the chick that he ends up with by the end of the show.
I didn't really watch the show regularly, but is Parks and Recreation the show that as soon as a restraining order expires, I'm marrying?
Yes, the Audrey Plaza is the one.
Plaza, yeah.
Parks and Recreation is a fantastic show, by the way. I avoided that for a long time. It came out during the Obama years, and it deals with like a government agency and shit. And I figured it was going to be a bunch of fucking liberal stroke job shit, like the West Wing, but trying to be comedic. I thought it was going to be like that. I finally gave it a shot on Netflix a couple years ago. It fucking owns. That show is amazing. Like, yeah, the one girl, Leslie Knope, is this fucking goody two-shoes leftist, but she's not insufferable. She just, believes in government like a fucking idiot. And then there's Ron Swanson, who's the fucking, like, hardcore libertarian, like, burn down the whole government guy. He's awesome. And then, like, every character in that show is just fucking hilarious. Like, that show is so fucking good. Honestly, like, Parks and Rec is one of the best sitcoms of the last 10 years. Easily. Like, one of the best comedy shows of the past 10 years.
It's interesting. It, like, in the rating wise, it never really excelled, but it has a very strong kind of cult following.
It deserves it, man. It's fucking great.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, if you have like a streaming service that has that on there, like, you should just watch it. Like, just binge watch it. It's fucking awesome. That's where Chris Pratt got his real start too, before he became, like, kind of. Oh, it's funny because he actually started doing the Marvel movies during Parks and Rec. And initially, he's kind of like a chubby dad bod guy in this show. And that actor got in shape for the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, for those Marvel movies. And they just...
he was chubby?
Yeah, he was, I mean, not like super fat, but he was a dad bod type. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
And they literally explain it in the show because, like, literally, a summer break for shows, they always do that, and they come back, for the next season. And now Chris Pratt is fucking ripped. You know what I mean? And they're like, they explain it in the show because, that he just stopped drinking beer. That's the only thing he did differently.
That's the only thing they
And now he's fucking ripped. That explanation kicks so much ass. The only thing that would have been funnier is if they would have never addressed it. Like,
all of a sudden, like, all the chicks, like, checking him out, like, him wearing, like, a half shirt and shit, like, a tank top, she'd be walking around.
But yeah, that show's great. Parks and Rec is absolutely great. Like, definitely check that show out.
Yeah, I mean, because I have this weird... well, it's kind of like the way you used to be about Taylor Swift, but I don't think you're into her anymore. That's the way.
I mean, I still would, but I'm not quite as into her.
Well, yeah, but now I think the restraining order you have now is indefinite. So.
She's just playing hard to get.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, like, yeah. So, and that was the reason I was just fascinated with her because it's not that I didn't like the show, but that kind of like weird humor. It's kind of like what's that show, The Office? They're all kind of spin-offs of The Office, aren't they? Like Parks and Rec.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of The Office. I kind of think The Office is pretty fucking overrated. I got a buddy that's a big Community fan, and I can understand why, but Community just never really clicked with me. But in large part due to Ron Swanson. Like, Ron Swanson fucking carries that show so much. And then April, actually, Aubrey Plaza's character also fucking carries that show. They are definitely the best parts of that show. But they really make that show work. A lot of that type of stuff, I've never been a big guy on, but, like, Parks and Rec kicks ass.
Yeah, I mean, no, I understand. Like, some shows just, do it for you. But, you were, a channel I just checked out, because you mentioned it, I think last week. What is it, Tubi? It's free. It's on.
Oh yeah, Tubi, the streaming service. Yeah, they're good.
There's a ton of free shit out there.
There's great shit. Tubi has a selection that easily rivals like Netflix and Hulu.
Why the
And
fuck do people pay for cable? I don't.
and I don't understand either. Again, I mean, if you cancel your cable subscription, you can probably get the top 5 streaming services for less money than cable. Like just
Yeah, and you don't need the top 5. You just get pick 1 or 2, and then you got shit like Tubi, and there's a bunch of other free stuff out there, and it's like, you know, because I remember when you said it, I was like, wait, this Tubi shit. Hold on a second. I remember like one night when I couldn't sleep, and I went like, there was a ton of stuff on there. I was like, oh. Fuck.
yeah, I just watched Cube on there a few weeks ago. Last night I watched Wishmaster on there, which is a painfully underrated horror movie. Wishmaster fucking kicks ass. You ever seen Wishmaster?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that's an older movie.
It's 97.
Yeah, I did see that.
But I mean, this horror movie has Robert Englund in it. It has Angus Grimm from fucking. He's doing a voiceover, but from Phantasm in it. It's got Tom Savini in it. Like, it's got all these great cameos and all by heart, and it's great, dude. That movie is awesome. So the premise of Wishmaster, audience, is it's an evil genie, right? And this chick, through happenstance, I'm not going to spoil it all, but this chick ends up in possession of this gem in which this evil genie was put in. And the evil genie comes out and he's like, okay, I'm going to give you 3 wishes. And then once you do the 3 wishes, all my evil genie people are going to come out of the genie dimension and just fuck everything up. And she's like, well, I obviously don't want to do that then. And she just leaves. She just runs away. And now the genie, who's disguised as a person, has got to go find her. And meanwhile, everybody he runs into, he's just granting wishes for them. Like, they'll just say they kind of want something, and he'll grant it to them in some fucked up monkey paws way that results in their gruesome death.
Yeah.
And the movie's just great. It's a lot of fun. The actor playing the genie is having a fucking blast with the role. It's a very, if you're a horror fan, it's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, I was a little more neutral on it than you are, but that's okay.
Somebody says, didn't Wishmaster have Freddy Krueger? Yes, it had. Robert Englund is in it, and he actually has a substantial role in it. And one of the actors that played one of the actors that played Jason is in it too at some point.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
But yeah, Wishmaster, and again, that was on Tubi too. Like, Tubi's got a great selection of stuff on it. It's got a lot of like kind of obscure, forgotten cartoons from like the 80s and 90s too. Like stuff you just don't see played a lot anymore, like the old Mario cartoon and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's kind of what's cool about a lot of these. If anyone gets like Roku, or what's the other one? That's the one I have Roku in.
I think Apple Fire Stick or something is the other one.
Yeah, Fire Stick. Yeah, there's all these channels on there and that are free. I mean, the only thing is like there's commercials.
Yeah, my cousin was telling me he found a channel called Zumo or something like that, in which he was actually watching the old 1940s Batman and Robin like serials that would be in like movie theaters.
Oh no shit!
Oh yeah, like just what a random fucking thing to stumble across. But
Who was it? Razor Fist that had the thing that Batman was based on the Shadow.
yeah, he's talked about that a lot. And the early Batman, the first Batman comic is basically a ripoff of a Shadow comic, like
Yeah.
pretty much whole cloth.
So if they actually, I'd be curious to. They're probably somewhere, or hopefully they're archived somewhere where you could actually listen to these. So just out of curiosity.
I think a lot. I think there's some. I think the Shadow radio shows aren't lost media or anything. Like most of them aren't, at least. I don't know if they've ever been officially re-released or something like that. I'm kind of surprised with as much superhero hype as there is that they haven't put out like CDs, because most superheroes that were around at the time had radio shows. Like radio was obviously a very, very prolific thing before television, and not only that, but like radio was something you could listen to radio shows obviously while doing most kinds of work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So literally, these were shows people listened to while they were doing their jobs. Like that's how much people listened to them. And yeah, like Superman had a radio show, and
like the late '80s, like
yeah.
you could have the radio, like you'd be a construction worker, and you'd have the. I mean, maybe you're too young for this, but I remember.
Well, yeah, but I mean, not just stuff like Stern and all. These were actual shows, like with plots and storylines going on. And I mean, a lot of superheroes had that shit, like Superman and Captain Marvel had that back in the day. Shadow, Batman. I mean, hell, Kryptonite as a concept actually comes from the Superman radio show. That's the first place that popped out. And well, yeah, I'm kind of surprised. You'd think like DC or something would put that shit on like CD and try and sell. Like, I think it would sell.
Well, I think that I mean, this is, I don't want to get conspiratorial, but I think that they don't want to say that Batman is basically inspired by something else. They like
Well, no, they don't have they don't own the rights to, DC doesn't own the rights to the Shadow. I don't know who owns it exactly. I think it's still like a small company founded by the guy.
That would be what 80 or 90 years ago.
It's not public domain. It's still a character
sure?
that's yeah. You have.
When did things go in the public domain?
I think it's about like 80 years, but it's also it depends on whether like if there's an entity.
That was the thing about Disney, like
Yeah, if there's an entity that owns it and has still been using it for all that time, which I think is fine.
I don't like. I disagree. I don't like the fact that they can do that, like because a corporation never dies, in theory, right? So they can kind of.
Well, they're also the thing that's keeping that alive, though. I mean, the whole reason you know who Mickey Mouse is because Disney has kept that relevant for so long. I mean, there's a million other cartoon characters that were damn near as popular at the time that, were owned by studios that went defunct and nobody picked them up. And I mean, nobody's stopping you from making a cartoon off of it, but nobody cares.
Right, but that's like saying that like great literature like would stop existing if like James Joyce, for example, is in the public domain. So is that what I mean?
You know what I would do on that? I would actually I feel like just for the sake of preservation, I feel like take Superman for example. Like I don't think DC should just arbitrarily lose Superman because of a certain amount of time. But maybe like Action Comics #1 becomes public domain and people could freely reprint it and sell it. But they can't, like the actual individual comic becomes public domain for easier access for people, but they still maintain the character. You know what I mean? Like it just now becomes where because there's a lot of stuff that ends up where like corporations just sit on it. Maybe because multiple corporations own it and they're not getting along or something, and stuff just gets gone. Like it just, that's what I really don't like, where it's just, now it's not even available at all. Because two corporations are mad.
You might have like a corporate merger and they couldn't agree on this, who owns the rights to X, Y, and Z, and then so all of a sudden it's caught up in like legal limbo.
Like the 90s Spider-Man cartoon never got an official like full DVD release, like the whole series or even season by season. And that's because there was like these weird rights issues with Saban that had distributed or something like that. And I mean, you can find the whole thing on like Disney Plus now because, now they don't want to put anything on DVD because they want you to watch their streaming services. But, but back in the 2000s, like it just never came out on DVD. I have it on DVD bootleg, but
all those like millions of dollars they spent in legal fees to put it on DVD because they couldn't envision the fact that 20 years later everything would be streaming.
There's another good example. There was a thing in the 90s where Marvel and DC did a big crossover where their universes got merged into like a single universe. And it was full of all these characters that were each one a combination of a Marvel and a DC character with their own like backstory in this universe. Like there's a combination of Wolverine and Batman called Dark Claw. There's a combination of Superboy and Spider-Man and Spider-Boy. Combination of Superman and Captain America called Super Soldier. And they were really cool one-shots. You'll never fucking see them again. You'll never fucking see these characters again. Like, you'll never see an action figure of them made. You'll never see t-shirts or other merchandise. You'll never see them pop up in a video game. You're never going to see them even reprint it ever again because they are co-owned by nature, by Warner Brothers and Disney now. And those two companies fucking hate each other. And not only that, but like, there's never been, since Disney has bought Marvel, there has never been an intercompany crossover comic book featuring Marvel characters. Like, that was a big thing throughout Like, I mean, you could trace that back to the 70s, but throughout the 90s and the 2000s, that was a big thing. Sometimes it would be, a story where we acknowledge these two things don't exist in the same universe and there's some interdimensional way they meet. Sometimes it's just like a standalone story of what if these things just did exist in the same universe and now they meet for the first time. That's just generally the two ways they do that.
Well,
But
you're not old. You're not old enough to remember back in the day, like when I was a kid, was the schism between Marvel and DC was like so dramatic. Like there was people who were DC aficionados.
oh yeah, it was the big the fans had a huge rivalry and all. But
Yeah.
my point is, like, since Disney bought Marvel, they haven't done any of those anymore. Not with DC stuff, not with stuff published by other companies. And they used to do that shit all the time. Like, there's just none of that anymore. There's no more JLA Avengers. There's no more Spider-Man meets Red Sonja fucking shit. There's no more, Wolverine and Witchblade hanging out. There's no Silver Surfer meets Superman. None of that shit anymore. And yet, in the last 10 years, in the last decade in particular, there have been comic book crossovers out the ass. That has been like the one bright spot in a fucking relatively dreary decade of comics, because usually you don't get a lot of woke shit in those crossovers because it's usually just a celebration of two franchises, both franchises trying to put their best foot forward kind of thing. But there's goofy ass comic book crossovers out the ass. There's been 4 Batman Ninja Turtle crossovers and even an animated movie. There's been like Terminator meets fucking Transformers. There's been fucking Star Trek Green Lantern. There's been fucking Sonic and Mega Man. There's been fucking Batman and Shadow crossovers. Ironic, given that's the last thing you'd think DC would want to draw attention to. But there was fucking 2 of them recently. There's been like Archie, like Betty and Veronica meet fucking Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn. Just goofy shit like this in the last 10 years. That just Dark Horse and IDW and Boom and DC have all just been having a blast with this. Fucking Ninja Turtles meets Power Rangers. Why not? Ghostbusters meets Transformers. Let the good fucking times roll. Meanwhile, poor Marvel can't play because Disney is an asshole who doesn't get along with anybody.
Yeah, well, I think Disney is like stuck on the woke shit. I think that's part of their.
Well, it's not just that. It's like Disney just doesn't want to generally cooperate with other companies for anything. Like, they just don't want to. And it's weird because generally the cool thing about comics, even comics based on like existing properties, is the big companies that own those properties don't micromanage the comics usually because they just don't care. So you get a lot of cool shit going on in these comics. You get Ghostbusters meeting the Ninja Turtles and shit like that because whatever, Sony and
You're saying there's not a lot of oversight because
Sony and Viacom would be those parent companies of those two properties, and they're like, whatever, fucking money's coming in, I don't give a shit, do what you want. Like, they're not obviously spending a lot of money to make these comics. It's not like an animated movie or something. So they're just like, whatever, do whatever, nobody cares.
No, that's true. The comic books are not the books themselves are not big revenue draws. It's multi-million-dollar.
But that's how you get these cool things. And again, ever since Disney bought Marvel, because Marvel used to do these all the time too. Ever since Disney bought Marvel, there hasn't been a single fucking one featuring a Marvel character.
Well,
There's no,
is Disney the one that it did the new Star Trek, or is that Disney, or is that?
no, I guess Viacom is the parent company that owns Star Trek. Paramount owns Star Trek, but then I think Viacom owns Paramount. Because there's only like 6 fucking companies that own everything.
Yeah, it's pretty much all consolidated. But that was like the worst fucking Star Trek imagination I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, the new Star Trek stuff is dog shit. Star Trek comics over at IDW are pretty good though, by the way.
By the way, you know what? Speaking of Star Trek, you know what? I just rewatched the episode is I think it was last night before I watched By the Pale Moonlight, that DS9 episode.
What was going on in that one? I by title I can't remember.
Okay, that's the one where Cisco. He doesn't know. It's kind of complicated. He doesn't know it, but it was to bring the Romulans.
Oh, I know the one you're talking about. Yeah, I know exactly which one you're talking about now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's great.
It was a lot going on in it, you know, because he's telling the story like through flashbacks.
I just recently marathoned all the Deep Space Nine like Mirror Universe episodes because
Okay.
after the first one they did, they like basically made that an annual thing. Like each season got a Mirror Universe episode.
Okay.
So there's like 5 of them.
It was pretty weird. Some of those are just pretty average. Well, there was one episode of the Mirror Universe with somebody. I think it was what's his name, the Irish guy.
O'Brien.
O'Brien, yeah. He comes back. He comes from the Mirror Universe to kidnap somebody from.
Yeah, he kidnapped Cisco.
Yeah. Oh, it was Cisco.
Because Cisco in the Mirror Universe had died. And he needed him to take his place for something.
Yeah. It was so trippy. I was like, man, somebody was like having a PCP trip when they fucking wrote this. It was funny.
I remember the first Mirror Universe episode. They supposedly killed Mirror Universe Odo, like they shot him with a phaser, and he blew up into a bunch of big chunks. And I just remember at the time thinking, like, why would that kill him?
Yeah, couldn't he just.
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, I just kind of like I didn't even think he was dead at first. I'm like, well, that's just gonna slow him down. And then later they're like, you killed Odo, and he was the last of his kind. I'm like, he should be fine. Like, you maybe blew off, like, 3% of them. All totaled. Like, you burned off 3%. The rest could just come back together. There's a line in the Orville. Great show. But there's, like, a slime creature in the Orville. And he talks about, like, you know, he was missing some memory because a chunk of him got shot off. Like a chunk of him got shot off with a laser or something. So he like had some memory loss.
I don't know if it's because you love Seth MacFarlane or you love that show. That doesn't work for me. Because look, you either have to be a dramatic show with comedy, or you have to be a comedic show with drama.
Well,
that show can't make up its.
I think it starts out. The first few episodes start out as much more of a comedy. And I think that was the network wanting to push Seth MacFarlane into that. But by the end of season 1, it is a drama with comedic elements, and it works far better that way. Like it just steers more into it. It definitely gets better. Like honestly, I was enjoying the Orville at first, but by the end of season 1, I'm like, this show kicks ass. And by the way, they did finally fucking wrap up on season 3, so that will be out shortly. Like just yesterday, they announced, like, yes, because it got delayed because of both Fox getting bought by Disney caused a bunch of delays, and because Disney and Seth MacFarlane fucking hate each other. And then there was delays because of the COVID shit.
Something with Family Guy, like he's contractually obligated with that or something like that. Yes, no.
Yeah, from what I understand, he can't leave Family Guy because of contractual obligations, but he very much wants to. But
he never said that. You're just guessing.
He has literally said he thinks Family Guy probably should have ended already.
Oh, did he? I'm surprised he get in trouble for that.
And he actually wants to make a show based on those Ted movies for Peacock. He's talking about that right now, which is a service owned by Universal. But he hates Disney. He doesn't want to work for Disney. He's been openly contemptuous. And Disney almost canceled the Orville just out of spite. Like, it was a profitable show, and when they bought it, they were like...
It got mixed reviews when it first started. Like I said, I only watched, like, the first one or two.
But he had to, like, fight to get a season 3 onto Hulu.
Okay. I might give it a second look. I don't know. I'm not the huge fan of him that you are.
Honestly, like I said, by the end, I think if you watch the whole of season 1, I think you'll be hooked. I think if you make it to the end of season 1 and still don't like it, then you don't like it. But by season 1, it had found itself. And let's be fair. I mean, I love Star Trek Next Generation, but it ain't like season 1 of TNG is anything to fucking write home about. I mean...
No, the first two... actually, the entire first two... Actually, I'm surprised that TNG even made it to a third season because that's when it actually started to get good. Let's be honest, the first two seasons.
Yeah, I would say the Orville finds its footing a lot sooner than TNG did.
Yeah, I mean the first season of TNG was pretty much unwatchable. But that's a good point though. You talked about how, or maybe I said it like, if it's a dramatic and there's comedic elements, they're like way funnier. Like for example, like there was an episode of TNG where Data starts dating somebody,
Oh, yes, I remember that.
and like he's going around asking like advice from, you know, all the different main characters, like Riker, and Riker's like, Riker was like the playboy, and he's telling him like, oh yeah,
You gotta pull your dick out, Data.
yeah, kind of like that. And,
Make him scared of it.
and so like Picard actually heard through the grapevine that Data was gonna be asking advice, and then like Data gets on the bridge, and all of a sudden like Picard just gets this terrified look in his eyes because he knows that Data's gonna ask him advice about women. And he goes, Captain, may I ask you a question? He's like, Data, I understand that you are wanting to know any advice about women. He goes, as soon as I know anything, I will let you know. And he like just ran away to his ready room. It was pretty funny.
They really should have had Captain Picard finally banging Beverly in that show. Like, they always hinted around to that. It's like they should have ripped that Band-Aid off.
Didn't they?
They just danced around it. They never went full on with that, but they danced the fuck around it forever. It's like, come on, man, just fucking, just do it already, Jesus.
Picard did get some pussy though. Like there was the one time where he went to on vacation and he banged that chick.
Yeah, there's that one archaeologist, like, fucking thief girl that he was banging.
Yeah.
There's a couple of times he was banging her.
Oh, and he also was banging the other chick. No, there was actually no. He got some action.
Troy's mom kept wanting to bang him, but he wanted nothing to do with Troy's mom.
Oh, yeah. Well, she wanted to bang everybody.
I mean, I get that character's annoying, but I still would.
You know who she is?
That is Gene Roddenberry's wife, or widow, I should say at this point. She's probably dead at this point. Good God, how long has it been?
Yeah, well, because that show was filmed like.
She was also the voice of the Enterprise.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, no, she's got to be dead now.
There's a really good Deep Space Nine episode with her. Her and Oda get trapped in an elevator, and and she's trying to bang Odo, by the way, too, because again, just a horny old bitch. And Odo, of course, Odo doesn't even really have a dick. I mean, I guess he can. He could be nothing but dicks. But realistically, he doesn't actually want to fuck her because he doesn't, have any desire to fuck. But she's just super horny for Odo. But they're trapped in this elevator and they can't get out because like everything, like even Odo can't get out because this is like shitty Cardassian tech. So there's just exposed. There's exposed wires all over the fucking place, basically, is what it is. And the floor is like, it's not a solid floor. It's like, like metal grating. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they're just trapped in this elevator. And Odo had to like sleep in a bucket, right? Like Odo, because Odo is a fucking, he's a fucking silver slime monster. You know what I mean? He's not actually a humanoid person. This is just something. It's a form he takes on to talk to people because it's easier to talk to a fucking person than a ball of goop. You know what I mean? So, and it's also easier to film that. So, but the in-universe explanation is Odo just finds it easier to interact with humanoids if he looks like a humanoid. But he has to sleep in a bucket. That's literally in Odo's quarters. He sleeps in a bucket. And it looks like the 24th century equivalent of a bucket he bought at Home Depot. It's not even a fancy fucking bucket. And Odo's in this fucking elevator, and he's like, I need my bucket, okay? I've been in this form for like 17 hours. I'm exhausted. I need my bucket. And she's just like, well, why don't you just go liquid? He's like, well, look at the floor. I'm going to fall through. And there's all those exposed fucking plasma wires down there because Cardassian tech is, again, garbage. Not a lot of OSHA standards in the fucking Cardassian Empire. So
where did he get
so
the
this is how we solve this. This is, and again, Odo's been an absolute shithead. I shouldn't say that. She's been hitting on Odo relentlessly, and Odo has not even really been nice about it. But she's still hitting on him because that woman could not take a hint to save her soul. Anyways, literally, he's starting to he's flaking off a little bit. Like, he's just not holding it together. And he's like, if he loses his form, he's going to fall through the floor and get fried. So finally, they get these guys out of the elevator, and she is holding Odo in her, she's like hold your shirt up right now. She's holding him in her dress. Because he's just a puddle of slime now, right? So she's basically saving his life. You know what I mean?
So she's cradling him like a baby, kind of.
And think about it. That's probably heavy. What does Odo weigh? Let's say he doesn't weigh as much as a full-grown man. You know what I mean? Okay, but a bucket of water.
75,
Let's say a bucket of water. Probably heavier than water. Because he's probably water-based with all sorts of other stuff in it. So just imagine a bucket of mud, essentially. And you just got to hold that for God knows how long. Or else a person will die. Just imagine that. You have to hold up a bucket of mud. A Home Depot bucket of mud for an hour, or someone will die.
Well, considering that, though, doesn't Odo owe her a...
I think Odo should have just give her the old fucking tentacle hentai thing or something. It doesn't... What's it matter to you? You know what I mean? What's it matter to you? It's not like... You're not going to even feel violated. You don't even have a sex drive.
Yeah,
You have no concept of feeling sexually violated.
Movie where one of your tentacles just goes off and does things.
Yeah, you could have been fucking giving it to her in all three holes that night, but nope, he's still just an asshole. Odo was kind of an asshole, but yeah, that's a great episode. It's really tense, the way that
I never saw this one. I don't know that one slipped by me. Actually,
I think it's actually season 1, because I know in season 1 they were still leaning on TNG stuff a lot more than they ended up doing. It's funny, we live in a world now of constant fucking member berries. But back in the day, Star Trek, while it wanted to maintain continuity very, very well, it didn't want to reference things just to reference things. You know what I mean? It didn't want to
What do you mean by that? Give me an example of that.
Okay, I can, actually. There's a good example. There's a TNG episode where Spock's father is, he comes on board the ship because Vulcans live for hundreds and hundreds of years. They're space elves, basically. And so he comes on the ship, and he's going to be the diplomat in some important space treaty between two people we've never heard of and never will again. So the writers were actually talking about how they wanted to throw in a bunch of references to Spock. And the showrunner at the time, the guy who's in charge of approving all the scripts and keeping the guy who's in charge of the overall direction of the franchise at that point, is no, we're not going to do, they didn't call him that back in the day, but he's we're not going to do member berries. You know what I mean? We're not doing that. We're better than that, damn it. And he's like, yeah, but it's Spock's dad, and he's on a ship, he's on an Enterprise. You'd think it would come up, you know what I mean? He's like, no, we're not doing it. So, and again, this is according to the writer. Later, the writer is talking to the showrunner about some other episode, and finally just goes, so tell me again in the Sarok episode why we can't mention Spock. And the showrunner just kicks back in his chair fucking fine once. So there's one... The plot of this episode is Sarok has Vulcan Alzheimer's, right?
Yeah.
And Alzheimer's is way worse than Vulcans because they're telepaths. So remember, Vulcans have emotions. They actually have really, really passionate emotions. That's why they have to have this extreme version of stoicism as their basically religion. Because otherwise, they're just going to eat each other. Vulcans are basically completely uncivilized if they're not constantly pushing their emotions into a bitter little ball deep down inside them. So that will kind of fuck you up after a while in some cases. And so Sarok has Vulcan Alzheimer's, which combined with his telepathy is making everyone else in the ship slowly and subtly start to lose their shit. Like, everyone else in the ship is losing control of their emotions.
In 10 forward, there's some fucking bar.
Yeah, there's just bar fights and shit. Like, Picard and Riker are fucking screaming at each other. Like, no, fuck you!
There's a scene where Worf gets punched in the face.
Yeah, like, just everybody's just screaming at each other. Like again, Picard and Riker, who were just best friends, just riding a tandem bicycle through the galaxy most of that show. Like, there's this really, like, uncomfortable scene where they're just fucking screaming at each other. Like, just, so, like, they finally figure out, okay, well, we finally get Sarek to admit that he's got this problem, and we're like, but we still need him to do the diplomat thing, so we're going to give him a temporary fix. Picard's going to do a mind meld with him, and is going to, like, temporarily, like, have all of...
Picard, like, gives up his sanity.
Yeah, he temporarily has Sarek's fucking madness in him. And they basically got him, like...
The whole time during the negotiations, Picard is basically a basket case.
Yeah, they got him in his fucking, what do they call it, the ready room? His little office by the bridge. They got him in there, and the lights are dim, and, like, Beverly's basically got him strapped down to the fucking couch in there, and he's just going nuts, like, frothing at the mouth and shit. And he's, like, half of what he's saying is about, like, his own frustrations, and then half of it's, like, Sarek's frustrations and shit. It's a really powerful moment, but there's one little bit in there when he mentions Spock briefly, something about Spock, I can't remember. That's the only time they were allowed to mention Spock in the whole show. Because again, Star Trek used to be like, we don't generally want to, like, just do member berries all the time. And there was actually a lot of, like, there was a lot of, like, higher ups when Deep Space Nine first launched that really wanted them to steer into some more TNG shit more that they really didn't want to do. Like, Q appears early in Deep Space Nine, shit like that. And they just didn't really want to do a lot of that. They wanted to do their own thing. Interestingly enough, Voyager kind of steered into a lot of TNG shit way more than you would have thought. Like, both the Borg and Q.
Yeah,
Like,
well, I thought Voyager sucked, for the most part. There was this, I mean, they literally made the Borg unscary.
I can kind of see that. I like the Borg Queen, and I both don't like the Borg Queen. I don't like the Borg Queen on one level because I feel like it was better when there was no such thing. You know? That said, though...
I'm not even going that specific. I mean...
That said, though, I feel like the Borg Queen was as good as she could be written in TNG. I will say this, though. While I can agree that the Borg got kind of defanged in Voyager. I can agree with that. That said, though, I think Voyager did arguably better shit with the Q than TNG did.
Like, give me an example.
Okay, so there's two episodes that really stick out. Number one, so there's an episode where, like, not the Q we know, but another one. He appears on Voyager, and he's like, "You gotta hide me." And we're like, what the fuck what are we supposed to do about it? And he keeps, like, zapping Voyager to, like, all sorts of other areas of reality, trying to run away from the Q. Well, he's running away from the Q continuum because he wants to die.
Oh, yeah, man, he wants to commit suicide.
So we have this whole episode where, like, because he's been around literally forever, and he's done everything, and he's bored. He's just infinitely bored and wants to die. So there's literally, like, a trial where they end up dragging Janeway into it, and it's now we're going to have a trial
What
of what...
happened was, if memory serves, was they agreed that the jury would be Voyager and Janeway because they were neutral.
Yeah, and it's funny, too, like, Q, like, tries to bribe her with, like, I could send you back to Earth. Like, I say Q. The Q we know. And then after that, there's, like, a civil war in the Q continuum, and we explore that. Like, and just just the concept of exploring the idea of somebody that's, you know, literally infinitely bored is a very fascinating concept.
Yeah, I just thought they handled it in such a childish way. Also, the episode you're talking about where that actually the guy, them agreeing to let that guy kill himself is what supposedly led to the Civil War and the quote-unquote continuum. That episode where they're, you know, I remember Q made it out to be like they were in the Civil War, like the Americans.
Yeah, because when they went in the continuum, like, all the Voyager crew had to see it as something because it was some unknowable... You know, you couldn't even begin to perceive it, let alone understand it. So they literally had to they had to turn the Q continuum into a metaphor every time they took him there. Like the first time they took him there, it was literally like some dusty like gas station alongside a desert road that stretches off into the horizon in both directions. And they're trying to explain what everything is. And they're like, "What is this road? Where does it go?" And he goes,
Well, it was beyond. It's all idea. It's beyond human comprehension.
"Yeah." He goes, "This road goes everywhere and nowhere and right back again."
Yeah, I just thought that it reached like a level of campiness, like when you had what was the Asian guy's name in Voyager, and Paris like running up with like the.
See, but I kind of like that. I just have a soft spot for that. Like, and I guess it's being a comic book fan. It just like I love me some Silver Surfer. You know what I mean? And that's a comic book that's always it goes off on these cosmic ideas and like space opera themes, and the Silver Surfer is always navel gazing and philosophizing about bullshit. But he's also a bald silver dude on a surfboard that shoots lasers out of his hands. You know what I mean? Like it's also goofy and stupid.
There's a guy that actually you could excuse his navel gazing because he surrendered.
Oh no, there's all sorts of deep mythos behind it, but it's also really, really goofy. It's also really, really silly at times. And like the best Silver Surfer comics walk this tight wire between being really silly and really fucking profound. And if I'm being honest with you, that's always kind of what Star Trek has done. Like in its best Star Trek is fucking goofy. Like half the time Star Trek's just fucking goofy. And even good episodes that people like can be episodes where like Q makes everyone play Robin Hood. Like, that's fucking dumb. But, like, goddamn, that episode's fun. Like, Worf is mad that he has to wear tights and shit. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Oh, actually, yeah, I remember that. That was.
I am not a merry man. That fucking shit is funny. All right? But it's retarded. It's stupid.
Well, yeah,
but it's also a bored space god would do dumb shit like that.
Well, I think that, like, TNG got good when Gene Roddenberry died.
I mean, there's look at the last season of TNG. The last season of TNG, in some ways, is almost as bad as the first season, because there's some dumb shit happening in that show. Now, it's not as bad because all the writers and the actors have both gotten to know these characters, so even dumb episodes end up being good character studies. Like the episode where everybody evolves into cavemen and devolves into cavemen and monsters and shit ends up being a really good character study with Data and fucking Picard. But that's dumb. It's not how evolution works. That's dumb. Like, it's stupid.
Well, I mean, I remember, actually, it's funny.
Spot turned into an iguana? That's fucking dumb.
One of my favorite episodes is, I think it was called Dharma. And I remember, I thought Luke would like it, but he thought it was really stupid. But
I love the concept of that episode. Like, and it kind of makes you wonder, like, I remember a Star Trek novel I read back in the day when I was a kid. Like 12 or 13, I read this novel. And it was original crew, but it took place around the time of the movies. And I can't remember what the main... because this wasn't even the main story, but they had to, they were having, tentative peace talks with the Romulans, right? So they have some Romulan diplomats over, And there's just a big old diplomat stuffy party with a bunch of Romulans and Federation people there, and Kirk is hating it because he wants to go shoot stuff and fuck aliens that he probably shouldn't fuck. Like that's what Kirk wants to explore the galaxy with his fist and his dick. You know what I mean? That's what he was all about, and he's bored to tears. And he said something to the Romulan guy where he said, and again, you can get into this a lot more in a novel than a show because novels tend to go into people's internal dialogues a lot more than a show would. Just the nature of the medium. He said something about calling somebody a party pooper, and he it says in the novel instantly Kirk regretted that and feared how that might be translated. However that translated into Romulan talk, the Romulan thought it was the funniest fucking thing he ever heard. He thought that was amazing. He's just dude, he's getting all his buddies dude, did you hear what this guy said? It's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, what's the word? What's the word for that? Expressions or
And yeah, you often wonder how things like that would translate. Like if somebody had no cultural context, what the fuck would Good Samaritan mean to them? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
And then there's even more modern talk. Like I might say a show Jump the Shark.
Right. Yeah.
If you never heard that before, you'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? What does that mean? You know?
Well, yeah, it's interesting you said that because like that I can't remember the name of that other alien race was. That's how they talk.
Yeah, everything was that. But it sort of brought up a point.
Or party pooper or.
You sort of brought up a point. You'd think that would come up more often.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, even if you have these little devices in your ear that are just translating languages automatically into you, you'd still get all these times where there's no word for that. Or, I mean, I remember seeing something where it was like talking about like Spanish and English and like if you literally translated Spanish and how so many, like, you know, please in Spanish is por favor. But that's not actually what the word is. The word is actually for favor. Or like why is not actually why. You know, por qué is actually for what. So there's technically no word for why in the Spanish language. So like, and there's just, those are just little examples of if like you literally translated something, it would sound really fucking weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like thank you in Spanish is like de nada means technically means nothing.
Yeah, de nada. You know, like that's not yeah. So yeah, you'd think that would kind of come up with more, if anything. But that is a really cool concept that like so much of their language has become these metaphors and sayings that even literally translating it, it's
Can't communicate anymore.
you know, everybody just say like Darmok when the walls fell. And they're like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Like it's fucking who's Darmok and where are the walls? What is he? But again, a lot of that would just be like, you know, again, if I said a good Samaritan, you know, if I, you know, if I helped an alien out.
The shark, then everybody would know what you meant. But if
Yeah, if I helped an alien out and said I'm just being a good Samaritan, even if that translates literally to him, like, what the fuck are the Sumerians? Is that another alien race? What are you? What are you? Fuck are you talking about?
No, no, that was actually, you know what was I think was the second highest rated episode of TNG was the episode where Picard is caught in a tractor beam and lives like 40
Oh
years.
yeah, one of my favorite Family Guy bits about that. There's a Family Guy bit where they're on Family Feud, and they're talking about like what is a gift you'd like to receive. You know, they're playing Family Feud, and Peter just goes, the flute that Captain Picard played first in his mind and then in real life in the episode The Inner Light. And on the board, it just goes like bing, and it's like one. And then he's panned back to Peter and he goes, I was in the survey.
You know what's an interesting tidbit about that? The character that played Picard's son was actually Patrick Stewart's son in real life.
Oh, that's pretty cool. You know, that kind of reminded me of a Voyager. Oh, go ahead.
His son was bald, and they had to put a wig on him.
That is kind
I'm
of
not
funny.
kidding.
That kind of because you know that idea of a probe that, you know, these people were doomed, so they get a probe out there so that other people can know of them. You know what I mean? It kind of reminds me of a Voyager episode I really liked, which was actually kind of sad at the end of it. So, okay, so.
Holocaust one.
No. So to understand this one, you got to go back. It's a sequel to another episode. So there's an episode where Voyager lands on what's called a Devil class planet, which is like, it's like super Mercury. You know what I mean? It's like, it like makes Mercury look like Earth. Like these planets are just completely unlike anything we could live on. But they needed to mine some bullshit off there for their ship, whatever. You know, unobtainium. They needed some fucking unobtainium from this planet. Who cares? And they end up. Harry Kim accidentally makes contact, like his suit breaks when he's out on the planet, and he accidentally makes contact with this silver fucking slime, and the slime then like fucking recreated Harry Kim. Like it was alive, and it was able to somehow just copy him. Whatever, who cares? It just did. And then, you know, by the end of the episode, like this slime is like, I want the rest of my slime people, for lack of a better term, to have sentience and true sapience like I have now. So I will give you the unobtainium you need if you let us copy you. So they do that. And I guess somehow they copy the whole fucking ship. That part's kind of dumb, but whatever. But point is, like 2 seasons later, we have an episode that starts off with like Tom Paris and the Klingon girl getting married, and they hadn't even really started dating yet. She's like, what the fuck? Did I miss some shit? You know what I mean? Well, it turns out, and then the ship is like, everybody on the ship is starting to die, and the ship's falling apart and shit like that. And it turns out that they were the Silverblood people. And they literally forgot they were the Silverblood people after a while. And just thought they were the Voyager crew and then just fucked off. But they couldn't live off their planet for that long. They started to deteriorate because they literally made the whole ship out of Silverblood stuff, right? And they couldn't find another planet like that in time. So they finally reached this point where they're like, okay, we're all fucked. Like, half of us are dead already. The ship's falling the fuck apart. We're done. Like, we're not going to make it to another planet where we need to go. We're fucking done. So they downloaded all their fucking files of their adventures onto, like, I don't know, a message that they were going to beam at somebody, anybody. Just please. We want to at least be remembered, right? So they're like, there's a ship off in the distance of our sensors, and we're going to fly towards it. And to just try to beam, like, some memory of ourselves to these people, right? So they're hauling ass as they're falling apart. And then you cut to, like, Voyager, right? And they're like, there's a weapon, actual Voyager. And there's a ship quickly approaching us. And, like, what the fuck do they want? Because, you know, there's the Delta Quadrant, half the people want to kill us over here. And they're like, I don't know. They're hailing us. And then they're like, man, the hail was too corrupted. We couldn't make anything out of it. And they fly over and they're like, yeah, there's nothing here but like some fucking goop. Oh, well. And they fly away.
Oh, that sounds fucked up.
And I was like, oh my God, that was so sad. That was such a kick in the balls. Like, God damn it, Voyager. But there was such a
lot of these episodes, I guess I missed. I don't know. I mean, because Voyager, for me, like the only episodes of Voyager I liked were the ones with 8472.
Yeah, 7 and 9 was great. I do like 7 and 9. And not just because, you know what? Not just because she was hot as fuck, and she was. But I actually like her character arc. I like her, you know, having to rediscover her. You know, she was assimilated by the Borg when she was like 5. So it was basically all she understood. So she had to like rediscover humanity and stuff. And that was actually pretty interesting at times. There's actually like one scene, and this is early in her shit and all, but like, Ensign Kim is like pathetically trying to hit on her, right? And she doesn't understand that that's what he's doing until finally it dawns on her. And she literally says to him like, oh, you wish to copulate. And she's like, would this be for procreation or recreation? And he just dumbfounded and like, but he probably could have fucked her because, you know, she was looking to learn about humanity. He probably could have fucked her. But she didn't sound like she was saying no. You know what I mean? But yeah, poor old dickless Kim just stuttered away. And just...
Yeah, I always thought he was about half a fag, but I guess my point about Voyager was that some of the writing was. I mean, I remember even seeing a YouTube video at one of the Star Trek cons where the guy who played Chakotay and Janeway were talking about how the writing was so awful sometimes they had like trouble keeping a straight face. It
was bad at times. Like Voyager, but you know what? Voyager, in my opinion, doesn't have any worse a track record than the original series. Because the original series, I mean, as Fry in Futurama famously said, it's 72 episodes, about 30 good ones.
Yeah.
Like the original series was at times absolutely fucking brilliant. And there were times when we go to an alien world that is ancient Rome for some reason, or Spock smells a flower and he turns into a hippie. Like some of those episodes were fucking retarded. All right. And you know what? Voyager is kind of batting the same 500 average. There are episodes of Voyager that are brilliant. Like I just described a gut-wrenching fucking emotional kick you in the balls episode. You know what I mean? And there's other great episodes, like when Janeway like goes into that holographic matrix that these people were trapped in and fights the clown of fear or something. That's a great fucking episode. A lot of great moments with 7 of 9 and stuff like that. Voyager had some fucking great episodes, had some great moments. It also had some really, really dumb, retarded shit, like the episode where they find Amelia Earhart for some fucking reason, or where Tom goes infinite speed and turns into a lizard, and then makes Janeway turn into a lizard, and they have lizard babies, and then they get better.
Yeah, or
That-
the one where like Chakotay's ancestors of these ancient. Do you remember he was like an Indian, but he wasn't from any specific tribe? Or something?
You know what? Now, I'm going to defend that and also not defend that. On one level, let's admit that that's bad writing. Okay? Fine. But let's have a little fun with that and try and speculate as to why that would be. So, here in America, we got us white guys that after a couple of centuries, we're no longer German or English or French or Irish or what have you. Most white guys in this country are mutts. They're European mutts. And in some cases, actually in many, many cases, if you've been here long enough, if your family's been here long enough, you probably have some native in you. And there's a little bit of black in a lot of people too. Not that much. That tends to be more white blood in the blacks because, you know, usually in the olden days of this country, if there was a half and half kid, he had to go live with the blacks. So that's why that tended to be that way. But there is no small amount of intermixing. Point is, white Americans are their own thing now. In just a couple hundred years. So I imagine, because the Indians, the Native Americans, they go fuck off and they live on reservation planets in Star Trek time, right? And there's not that many of them now left. I can't imagine they're faring that much better 200 to 300 years from now. So I kind of get the impression that Native Americans in Star Trek times have sort of coalesced into one fucking thing, basically. That maybe the new tribes or these new reservation planets, but each of these tribes sort of borrows a lot from the various tribes that came together to form them. So that's why you have somebody like Chakotay, who is just Indian. He's just Native American. What kind of Native American? Fuck you, that's what kind. He's all kinds and no kinds. That's what kinds he is. He has whatever traditions the writer feels like he has. But that's kind of, in my mind, why that is. Like, if I watch that show, that's sort of what I say is an in-universe explanation for that. Because it's not just that. There's an episode of TOS where they see a fucking native, where they go visit a Native American fucking colonized planet. There's an episode of TNG where they go visit a bunch of Native Americans on a colonized planet, and they had to move them. History repeating itself because the Cardassians were like the treaty with the Cardassians was like this planet is Cardassian now, and it's like, sorry, you guys gotta move again. Sorry. I know this is happening a lot, but sorry, you gotta fuck off and move again. I know this keeps happening to you. We promised the last time. But
really nice place. Yeah.
you know how that one was resolved? They just defected to Cardassia. The Indians just defected to the Cardassian Empire. Like, literally, the Cardassians were like, you know, all we need on this planet is we're just going to, like, mine some stuff on, like, another continent that you guys don't even live on. So, like, you know, if you leave us alone, we'll leave you alone. We don't want to be in charge of primitive people anymore. That didn't work out well with the Bajorans, all right? We don't want that headache again.
There was I think they were called the Maquis.
Yeah, but the Maquis was like, that was actually originally a Bajoran rebel group that ended up with a bunch of Federation defectors.
Yeah, a bunch of Federation people ended up joining it, and but they were, but they tended to be like Federation people that were really good fighters. You know, like they weren't the wimpy Federation people.
And you know, that's the other thing about Voyager, and it wasn't well enough introduced, but the fact that this crew gets formed like half by Maquis people, like that just get folded into it. Because, you know, we, at that point, it was kind of a survival thing. We're stranded, you know?
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't remember because I haven't seen it in like 20 years. I think the first episode of Voyager was like half the crew dies, right? So
Yeah, half the crew dies, and then like they just bring the Maquis people on board because their ship gets destroyed, and they're like, "Look, we're out here and we're kind of on our own, so you know what? Just for the sake of unity and all, like y'all are just part of the crew now." Like the Maquis captain becomes the second in command. It's like, yeah, okay, you whatever, fine, it's fine.
There was an episode of Voyager where
They touched on that a little bit, like the tension and all, but they never really delved into it as well as they should have.
well, there was. Do you remember the episode with the telenovel?
The telenovel?
Yeah, like you know, there was the or the excuse me, not the telenovel, the holonovel.
I know Tom was always like doing holodeck shit.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what happened was there was what was the name of the Vulcan on Voyager?
Tuvok.
Tuvok. Tuvok. You find this out at the very end. So Tuvok had actually created a battle simulation.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because he was a security officer. He created this like Voyager Civil War story of like how he plans to kill all the Maquis if he has to.
Right, but people didn't know. I forget what the. I think some people stumbled on it like accidentally, cause, you know, whatever. But everybody thought it was like a novel, like a you know, like a fan fiction thing. But he actually wrote it as a tactical way of dealing with if there was a Maquis uprising.
Yeah, I kind of remember that one now. You know, the other thing I liked on that show was Tom Paris. Like, because originally they busted him. Like, he was in prison. Like, his dad was an admiral in Starfleet, but I think he was in Starfleet, but then he rebelled and went AWOL and shit. So he was in prison. And they got him out because he's like this great pilot, and they were going to go try and find Maquis people in the Badlands, and they needed like some awesome pilot. And they were like, you know, this is like basically your fucking parole. And he also always called Janeway ma'am when everyone else called her sir. And like you could tell he was just kind of fucking with her a little bit doing that. Like she didn't really like it, and he just did it anyways. He fucked with Janeway a lot, like subtly. Like she kind of like took a shine to him, and like almost had this surrogate mom thing on her end with him, and he just treated her probably as badly as he treated his real mom, and just fucked with her relentlessly. And there's actually an episode where he defies some direct order, and like there was half the Janeway was really half-assed with the fucking Prime Directive. But every once in a while, she just was a stickler for it. Like, no, we're not going to help these people. Prime Directive. You know, we don't need anything from them, so fuck them. And so she's like, no, we can't help these people. And Tom, I can't remember the exact details, but Tom's like, you know, eat my ass. I'm going to go help him. So he does that. And then, like, the episode ends with him, like, in the fucking brig, right? For, like, 4 days or something straight. And you know, those brigs suck. It's not even a room. Like, I don't even know how they go to the bathroom in those fucking brigs in Star Trek. There's not even a toilet in there.
It's a sink.
Yeah, it's a sink and a bench. And it's like, it's the size of a walk-in closet. Like, it's borderline barbaric for fucking hippie-ass Star Trek. But, so he's in this fucking brig for 4 days, just like bouncing a ball on the wall, like fucking Steve McQueen. Shit. And she finally comes back and she's like, I'm so disappointed in you. And he's like, hey, you know what? I did what I thought was right. And she's like, well, I have to do something about this. And I'm going to demote you down to ensign. And he's like, I don't care. Do what you got to do. He's just clear conscious, like, no, do with me as you wish. I've already won. Like, he's just complete clear conscious about it. Not apologizing or nothing. He's like, whatever, do what you got to do.
Like, what the fuck difference does it make whether you're an ensign or you're a...
Yeah, I'm not even really in Starfleet. You think they're going to recognize this rank when we get back? Who cares? Do I have to do a worse job? No, I'm still flying the ship. I don't care. It's not like we get paid.
What's that going to affect my fucking pension benefits? But anyway, brother, I gotta bail.
Yeah, I'm probably going to go ahead and wrap this up. Been going for 2 hours. Plus, y'all ain't sending me no super chats anymore. And fuck you. You know? I'm a whore, all right? If I'm not getting the money. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end this stream. John, thanks for calling in. It was good chatting about old shows. Everybody, you should go watch Hercules, and you should go watch Parks and Rec. Those are fucking great shows. Stop whining about everything else being woke and gay and go watch. There's decades of great old shit. Go watch that if you want to watch something.
And it's free.
Yeah, I actually think Hercules is on Tubi, to be honest. I think Hercules is free. I know it's on a few other things, but I think it is on Tubi. And, you know, I mean, if you want to Pirate Bay it, I'm not even going to fucking talk shit on you for that. Go ahead. Fucking sail the high seas. I don't care. Folks, if you're listening at another time and you want to support the show, streamlabs.com/Bedglov. You can send a donation when I'm not live, and I'll see it when I am live. PayPal.me/Bedglov. And I'll try and remember to put an Amazon wishlist link down below. And that's about all I got for tonight. I want to thank you all for listening.